Fulham 1, Manchester United 2, and there you have it. At the very end, the last kick of the game, your boy Garnacho came up with the goods. Well done, lad. Last minute, but we don't care how, as long as we win. And even though it wasn't a pretty game, it wasn't a good game for the neutral, and it wasn't a good game if you were a United fan. It wasn't a pretty game to watch, but we won the last game before the World Cup. It was important to win. It was so important to win, and we got the job done. So much to get into today. Martial starts, Elanga and Rashford front three. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the midfield and, in my opinion, how Fulham's midfield harassed and pressured our midfield into making so many mistakes. We're going to talk about Malacia's performance down the right. It wasn't a good day for Malacia. It was not a good day for him at all. There's a lot to get into, even though it wasn't a good game to watch. And as usual, we're going to get into those details here on this channel. Malacia's weakness is also his strength. His strength is also his weakness. His intensity and his willing to engage defenders and try to win the ball back is one of his major assets as a footballer. You know, like Michael Carrick used to do. Michael Carrick was not an engager. Michael Carrick sat back and blocked the passing lane. He intercepted. Michael Carrick might have 3 tackles, but 12 interceptions. So what? If you're not... Before we start and before we begin, as usual, guys, please smash the like, turn on your notifications, grab a drink, subscribe, and do all the shizzle shazzle, share and all that stuff, because it's a cool channel. It's a cool channel here. After every Man United game, we're going to come here and essentially just debrief, talk about the points, talk about what went right or what went wrong, and just analyze the performance. No bias, just straight up pragmatism. Boom. All right, cool. Grab your drink. Lineup. Martial started. I think Martial needs to start now that he's fit, play more games. He's not going to go to the World Cup, so he's probably going to keep training over this period of time. He needs to start, like I said. He's supposed to be our main striker. That is fine. I'm good with Martial starting. Martial, Elanga, Rashford. Me personally, I'm not a greatest Elanga fan. I'm not. I don't want to get into it right now at this moment of time, but I wouldn't have started Elanga. But I believe Ten Hag probably has his hand tied a bit in terms of who he can start and who he can play. So, cool. The midfield that we started, Eriksen, Bruno, and of course, Casemiro is probably, in my opinion, our strongest midfield 3 at this moment of time. However, the last few games, I've been saying on this channel that Eriksen's performances have started to dip, he started to look tired, a bit fatigued, not making the right decisions a lot of the time, not keeping up with the intensity. So I'm now thinking maybe we need to start thinking. I mean, Eriksen was never, in my opinion, supposed to be that guy who picked the ball up from the defensive midfield position. I think that was supposed to be Frankie de Jong's role. That's clearly Casemiro's role as a DM, and Eriksen was not brought to play that role. He was not brought to play that DM, picking the ball up from the back 4 role. He's never played that role. He's always played either the box-to-box or the number 10 role in his career. So we have to, apply context and understand that he has been playing out of position the whole season, technically. But his performances over the last few games have dipped slightly. We started Lindelof ahead of Maguire in the back 4. And the question I want to ask you guys is Maguire finished? Is Maguire's career finished and fully over at Manchester United Football Club? Because he is now he's a 4th choice striker. He's a fourth choice striker at Manchester United Football Club. If Lindelof is fit, Lindelof starts ahead of Maguire and Lindelof partners Martinez. Of course, if Varane's fit, then Varane partners Martinez. Martinez and Varane are the first choice. Then it's Lindelof, then it's Maguire. Maguire's fourth choice. That is clear now. I think that is clear. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree or disagree? But for me, I think it's clear that Maguire is fourth choice defender or centre back at Manchester United under Ten Hag. Malacia starting ahead of Dalot. I'm good with that call. I mean, hindsight is a beautiful thing, and me saying I'm okay with the lineup doesn't mean that Malacia is going to play amazingly. And we're going to talk about Malacia's performance later on, because he did not play amazingly at all by a long stretch. But I'm okay starting Malacia for Dalot. Dalot, I think, or at least I believe, and then tell me if I'm wrong, has started almost all the games for Man United. He hasn't had a rest, really. He's been subbed off when he's played, but he's not really had a rest, and he doesn't have much competition for the right-hand side at all. Who's Dalot's competition for the right-hand side? Nobody. So I'm okay with giving Dalot a rest. I've been calling for giving Dalot a rest, even though I don't think he actually needs a rest, but you know, he should have a rest. He can't go on and play in every game, you know. So cool, that was our lineup. You know, I'm okay with that lineup. Fulham pressed us well in the first half. Within the first 11 minutes, I noticed that Fulham's midfield were pressing our midfield so well. Casemiro and Eriksen were not given a lot of time on the ball, and when they had the ball, they were pressured and they were pushed into making quick passes, and when they did that, a lot of times they would lose the ball. And as Bruno tried to drop deep more than he does before, my problem with Bruno a lot of times is that he vacates a number 10 position too many times, and he tries to play like a striker, and he tries to make that third man run too many times, and he vacates that space. He needs to sometimes drop deep and look for the gaps and look for the holes, so the midfield too, so Eriksen and Casemiro can find that pass, that pass through the lanes, so he can be in that gap, so he can turn. One thing I don't see Bruno do enough of is receiving the ball with his back to goal, in space, and then turning. He needs to try to his best to, you know, keep working the lines and finding that space. But Fulham pressed us in that midfield area really well, and I noticed they kept improving on that press. However, that being said, we scored within the first 15 minutes, and the goal came from Martial dropping deep. And I've criticised Ronaldo in previous videos in the past for when Ronaldo drops deep, he usually just collects the ball and gives it back to the midfielder, then runs back into position. Whereas when Martial drops deep, he actually tries to link play, right? And there's something really important when you have a striker who drops deep to collect the ball, who can also turn his defender and face his defender. No defender wants to play against a striker who can do that to them. No defender wants to play against a striker who, you know, can get the ball and turn and face them. Nobody wants to play. That is something that Martial does really well. Not only does he do that really well, he can go left, all right. One of our goals, I think our second or third goal against Liverpool, when he did the same to Van Dijk. He turned Van Dijk and he played the ball through to Rashford, and when we scored. Similar thing happened today. Martial dropped deep. He turned his man and he faced his man and he ran towards his man. Something he does really well. Gave the ball to Bruno. Even Bruno's pass to Eriksen was a lovely pass. When I looked at it the first time, I thought to myself, did Bruno try to shoot there? I don't know. But it was a really good pass from Bruno to Eriksen. Good goal. Good, really well worked goal. Even though Fulham was starting to play well, even though Fulham were starting to press us well. But I noticed once again today, playing with Martial, in the first 15-20 minutes at least, we press well, but we stopped pressing as intensely, and we started falling back more and more as the first half went on. There's one thing I want to mention as well. Martinez, the way we play with Martinez, the way he starts our attacks, he's such a good passer of the ball. And there's one thing I'm very impressed with Martinez is his reverse passes. He uses those reverse passes really well to break those lanes. When we're under pressure defensively, when most defenders would just clear the ball and hoof the ball clear, watch Martinez. A lot of the times he will just give himself just a half a yard to just play a reverse pass that just defeats the defender and takes the defender completely out the game. He can do that, and he does that very well. That nice little reverse ball. A ball that a lot of players don't even see. A lot of players don't even see because it's like their blind spot. That pass is like in their blind spot. He's facing that way, but he's passing the ball that way. He does it really, really well. I think Martinez is a really good signing for Man United. He starts a lot of our attacks, like I said, and the way he steps into the midfield, he does it really, 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 really well. Malacia. In the first half, Malacia was having problems after problems after problems. This is my assessment of Malacia, right? My assessment of Malacia, especially in the first half. Malacia's weakness is also his strength. His strength is also his weakness. His intensity and his willing to engage defenders and try to win the ball back is one of his major assets as a footballer. When we first saw Malacia, we said, wow, compared to Luke Shaw, he's so much more aggressive, he's so much more intense, and this is what we need. However, that same intensity, that same aggression is what sometimes gets him in trouble. And just like Fred and McTominay, who are two defensive midfielders, quote, defensive midfielders, who engage the ball a lot and don't know how to sit back and block passing lanes, don't know how to, like Michael Carrick used to do. Michael Carrick was not an engager. Michael Carrick sat back and blocked the passing lane. He intercepted. Michael Carrick might have 3 tackles, but 12 interceptions. So what's better, a tackle or an interception? It depends how you look at football. Sometimes it's best to do an interception rather than try to engage and do a tackle. Malacia is an engager. He does it all the time, and sometimes, as we can see today, if you don't win the ball and you get skinned and you get turned, you're out of position, out of the game, and the whole side is just free reign for the attackers. He needs to learn when to engage and when not to engage. He needs to learn that very quickly, or no technical ability. No technical ability will save you if you don't learn that, Malacia. I like Malacia, I really do. And he wasn't helped today. He wasn't helped in the first half by Elanga. No, he wasn't helped at all. A lot of times he was there by himself. But around the 27th minute, Fulham beat our press. Wilson, but fortunately for us, Wilson shot straight at De Gea. Martial also had another chance in the first half. Another Bruno pass. Bruno cut it back to Martial, and Martial shot through Leno's legs. But as the first half wore on, Fulham started to get more into the game, started to become more confident. We didn't press as much, as intensely. With Martial, even though we pressed more with Martial than Ronaldo today, as we can see, even though Martial pressed, he didn't press as intensely as the way Rashford pressed. Rashford is just a genetic beast anyway. But Fulham started to pin us back. And we just couldn't get a hold of the game. And this is when I was talking about their defense were just more aggressive than their midfield were more aggressive than our midfield. So even when we had the ball, even when Eriksen had the ball, he was just pressured into making a mistake time and time again. And you know what? Even though the first half ended essentially with Fulham more on top, Fulham pressing us back, on the break, United still looked dangerous. On the break, we still ended the first half with 2 chances. You can call them 2 chances. Shaw's cross to Martial, and Martial headed over the bar. You can probably call that a chance, potentially, half a chance. And also Bruno's cutback from the right-hand side when Bruno had the ball on the right. He cut it back into space and Eriksen ran onto the ball. And you think, come on, Eriksen, this is you. Just place it into the far corner. He went to the near post and he missed. That's how the first half ended. So even though Fulham started going into the game, we ended the first half with a few chances. And just like the previous games, I've said, United don't start games intensely. United don't start a first half intensely. We don't start the second half intensely. And against Aston Villa and a few games previously, as we can see, the best time to score against United is early in the first half or early in the second half, because we're asleep a lot of the times. So I was hoping in the second half that we started the second half right. And we didn't really. Fulham started the same way they ended the first half. They were confident today. They were very, very confident today. They played the ball quickly on the ground. And yeah, the first half started, or should I say the second half started the same way the first half ended. Tim Reid had a header saved, point blank header save from De Gea. And when that happened, I felt the tide turning, the crowd started chanting, the atmosphere changed. They made a change. Ten Hag decided to take Elanga off for Scott McTominay. That is something that there's a pattern emerging here, because that's not the first time Ten Hag's done that. I noticed a lot of times later on in games, he likes to take a winger off and put on Scott McTominay to shore up the midfield. A few times it's worked, a few times it hasn't, but I'm noticing that's what Ten Hag likes to do. Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing to notice, because you get inside the manager's head and the way he thinks. He wants more control of the ball. He wants more control in the midfield. He'd rather have that, So, yeah, Elanga off, Scott McTominay on, but it did not really change the flow of the game. Fulham were on top, and it didn't take long before Fulham eventually scored. So let's talk about that goal. Because of all the people to score that goal, of course, it had to be Daniel James. Of course, it just had to be. It had to be. It was a good goal. It was a good goal from Daniel James. It was a tap-in at the far post. But let's talk about the build-up to that game, because I already mentioned Malacia, and I already mentioned Malacia's positioning. And not just Malacia's position, I mentioned Malacia's intensity and Malacia's aggression. The goal started, and with Bruno, first of almost, giving the ball away unnecessarily. And yes, you can talk about Malacia's positioning, and Malacia, you could argue, could read the game better. I mean, hindsight is a beautiful thing. But of course, in Malacia's head, Bruno's got the ball and I'm going to make the overlap. I'm going to make the over or underlapping run or whatever he was doing and collect the ball and be through. That's what Malacia was thinking. You could argue Malacia could have read the position or read the situation better and fell back, stood back, sat back to receive the ball, whatever. Either way, Bruno didn't need to lose the ball there. He didn't need to. Malacia clearly made a choice which ended up being the wrong choice. He's out of position, but also notice that Luke Shaw is also out of position. So clearly both Malacia and Luke Shaw were thinking of similar things. They were thinking, let's both join the attack. Bruno lost the ball. Both fullbacks are now out of position, out of the game. Dan James makes the run at the far post. Simple as you do it. Goal. So football's complicated. So who's to blame there? Bruno for giving the ball away unnecessarily. Malacia for, assuming Bruno had the ball under control and making a run. Malacia for not reading that, maybe let's hold back. Let's read the game. Let's interpret the situation as it unfolds. That's a skill in itself. Some players can see steps beyond what is currently happening, could read the game and say, let's be more conservative right now. I don't know, however you want to see it, but let me know how you guys see it. Let me know how you guys read that whole situation and how that goal unfolded. Who's to blame there? It's not black and white. Football is grey, and we don't. And on this channel, especially on this channel, I don't want people to just think in some polarized way, because football is fluid. It's a sport that just keeps it. It doesn't. It's stop and start, stop and start. It's a motion. Players keep moving all the time. So who's to blame in any situation? Sometimes it's grey. But anyway, Fulham scored, and they kept dominating even though we made a change. We put on Garnacho on for Martial, and of course that was a change. That was a change. Martial's performance today, it was okay. He had a few chances. This guy's rusty. So I don't want people on any channel, online or anywhere, having a go at Martial. Martial ain't played all season. He's still getting back to fitness. And even, like I said, I would prefer an 80% Martial right now rather than 100% Ronaldo. An 80% Martial right now, I'll take over 100% Ronaldo all day. Because even today, he didn't do... You can argue he didn't do a lot, but what he did was important. He was involved in the first goal. And he was involved in most of the good things that we did. He's going to get up to fitness, hopefully. I hope he hasn't lost that yard of pace. He looks like he has lost another yard of pace. And every time Martial comes back from a big injury, he just looks 0.2% or 0.25 seconds slower. And this time is no different. He just genuinely looks a little bit slower than he did last time. So I don't think this guy can afford any more really big injuries, because you can tell that he's not as mobile as he used to be. And whereas because he's good technically, he can still hold the ball up, bring others into play and do other things. His lack of physicality so far hasn't been or his decrease. He's still quick, he's still physical, but his clearly visible decrease in physicality hasn't had that much on an impact on his game. But the Martial where we saw the quick Martial down the left, where he used to skip past 2 or 3 people with so much pace, and that Martial's done. We're never going to see that again. So I want people to get that out of their heads, because you can clearly see physically he can't do that stuff anymore. The injuries have taken its toll, but he just needs to keep himself fit. Decent performance from Martial today. Decent. Had a few chances, didn't bury them, but when it mattered, he got involved in the first goal. Came off. Garnacho. Now this kid, and I've said before, I'm going to take it easy on my praise for this kid, because I've seen kids like this before come and go, and they were promising. They showed bright sparks. Ravel Morrison, all of these kids, and then, Januzaj, whatever. And then they just turned out not to be as successful, or turned out that they didn't have the desire or the hunger needed, or whatever. They had something missing. That piece of the jigsaw was just missing. But with this kid, he looks like he's got something. He's got speed, which in the Premier League, in the English game, speed is so important. I don't like players who are just pace and power players. I prefer technicality. I always tell people that pace and power in the Premier League means a lot, but it doesn't always translate well on the international stage. As we can see many times, look at the Euros, Italy beat England, even though Italy have no pace and power people. Sometimes it's about technicality. Spain won Euros, then World Cups, then Euros and World Cups, and their squad, they did have pacey people in the squad, but they won their games by just being technically better. They passed every team off the park, Spain. So it was more the technicality that got them winning Euros and winning World Cups, not, players who just did their speedy things. Players who relied most on their speed and their physicality, like a Lukaku, for instance. So Garnacho seems like he has technicality, he has speed, he has something about him. So let's hope. Let's not get excited. I'm not the sort of fan to get overly excited, but so far, the kid looks like he's got something. And Sancho and Antony, if it means he pushes those guys into playing better, into raising their game, so far, so be it. That's all good. So yes, Garnacho on for Martial. Around the 82nd minute, short cross from McTominay, who missed a header over the bar. And even though, once again, we made the changes, we didn't look like we were going to score the winning goal. We didn't. Fulham still looked like they had a degree of control in the second half. So it was so surprising. I was ready to turn the TV off. I was ready to turn the program off. I had enough. 1-1 from a winning position. We let it slip. But no, right at the very end, Garnacho came up with the goods. Really good goal. He basically did a 1-2 with Christian Eriksen and slot it home. Far post. Good goal from the kid. Celebrated. Took his top off. Ran into the crowd. Bruno last week in his interview talking about how he's got bad attitude and all of these things, and I'm thinking, why would that be the first thing you say about the kid? Why would you not praise him? Why are people already being so negative about the kid? I don't know what that is about. Maybe that is a way to humble the kid. I don't know. You let me know what you think about that. But I find that very, very weird. Very, very weird. But he answered those critics again today. He came on the field. He made a difference. His pace, his directness. He's very, very direct as well. He's not going to be good for every game. He's not. But once again, if he keeps improving this, the IQ, I always talk about footballing IQ. So important. Making the right decisions at the right time. IQ. If he keeps improving that, then we've got a player. But let's not get excited. Not the greatest game to watch, like I said, but United, we needed to win. All the other teams around us won. Of course, Man City lost, but we're not really in the title race. We shouldn't really be thinking about Arsenal and Man City anyway. But we just needed to win. We had to win, and we won. The World Cup is next. I don't know if I'm going to do any material for the World Cup. Maybe I might do some reactions. Maybe I might do some watch-alongs. I don't know. But yeah, that was the way I saw the game. That was my view, my analysis of the game. Let me know what you thought of the game. I want to learn from you. That's the way I saw it. Let me know how you saw it. How did the goals unfold? Who was to blame? If you want to look at it that way, who was not to blame? Who played well? Who didn't play well? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Let's get some dialogue. Let's get some conversation going. Chosen Wisdom. This is the brand new channel. Let's grow the channel together, guys. Let's grow the channel together, guys. Yeah. Tongue-tied. The thing is not easy. This thing is not easy, but we're doing it. We're doing the damn thing anyway. Like, share, subscribe, do the damn thing. Yeah, I'll be back soon. Who was the man of the match today? I would give it to Martinez. There you go, guys. I'll give it to Martinez. I don't know if you guys are going to agree with that, but for me, Martinez was the man of the match. Malacia didn't have the best of performances. Elanga is that pace and power that I'm talking about. When I think of pace and power, I think of Elanga. I don't want to be mean, but I don't think Elanga is good enough for Manchester United. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. Have a good week. Be blessed. Don't be stressed. Love Man United. Peace out. If you're not